War is bad for business, especially in a market-oriented galaxy-wide economy like the one that operated within the Republic. The Clone Wars wasn't just a simple conflict, though. It was technically a civil war and a secessionist movement, which is even worse for business than a conventional conflict. Chances are your supply chains and trade routes are now going to be dotted with blockades, battlefields, and swarms of space whales trying to escape the fighting. There's this really famous quote that I completely forgot who said, but it goes something like this: "Why shoot missiles at another country when you can just sell the missiles?" It's the mindset of your average arms dealer, and unfortunately, it was a very prevalent mindset amongst the corporations that existed in the Star Wars galaxy. And so during the Clone Wars, an interesting phenomenon started occurring: the appearance of what I'd like to call the Neutral Corporation. These were gigantic galaxy-wide companies that had representation within the Galactic Senate, but were at the same time publicly involved in aiding the separatist droid army's efforts against the Republic. There's a clear conflict of interest here, one that seems to escape the notice of just about everyone. Today I want to take a look at this phenomenon and explain why and how it happened. But before we begin, I want to talk about something that's been happening on our channel quite a lot recently. So we keep getting these requests to advertise cryptocurrency, NFTs, and apps that will, help you invest in portions of a painting and all sorts of nonsense like that. Now, you guys know I'm not the most ethical person in the world. This is why I'm on the run in this hotel with a suitcase full of lightsabers that I totally did not loot from Battlefield. And even so, I would still never recommend you guys invest in cryptocurrency or NFTs. All throughout history, the most unregulated parts of our economy have attracted the biggest scumbags and criminals. And unfortunately, these so-called investments they're trying to sell us all, it's just gambling, or a Ponzi scheme at worst. But still, in today's economy, if you don't grow a capital through investments, you're really going to be in trouble, especially with all this inflation. And I love you guys. Even you, Steve. Go put some pants on. You guys all watch my stupid videos, and without you, well, I'd still be back in my old job, poaching for porgs in wildlife reservoirs and selling them to Wookiees on the black market. And so today, I want to give you guys some advice that's actually valuable and useful. It's 2 words. It's called value investing. All types of investment strategies involve risk, but value investing is definitely one of the most solid and proven methods of investments that focuses more on understanding the actual companies you invest in rather than just taking a look at market swings and prices. Value investing is a skill, not some type of investment product I'm trying to sell you here. And back in the day, it was very difficult to learn how to become a value investor. You had to read a bunch of Warren Buffett books, maybe find a mentor. But today we have tools like Skillshare, which is our sponsor for today's video. For those of you not familiar with this platform, it's the future in learning. No tuitions, no curriculums, no schedules. Instead, you get to choose from Skillshare's massive library of different lessons on a huge variety of professional skills, like value investing. I was able to find several classes in value investing on Skillshare, including this one being taught by a professional banker who has almost 10 years of experience. He'll give you a better explanation why proper value investment is far superior to any other investment strategy. And I'll even go into the specifics on how to analyze a company's fundamentals, which is a very important part of the process in selecting which companies you want to park your money in. And this is just one of the many investment classes available at Skillshare, and investing is just one of thousands of skills you can learn about on this platform. Skillshare is actually a great investment in yourself, which is one of the most solid investments you can make because life is an RPG, and you should max out as many skill trees as you can. Check out our link in the description below, and the first 1,000 people who click on it will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. I know the sponsor is a little longer than usual, but this is something I really do believe in. I think Skillshare is a great tool that can help you learn a lot of amazing things, including how to value invest, which, by the way, is what I practice on a daily basis. That is how I plan on securing my financial future. Anyway, guys, thank you for your patience. On to the rest of the video. So during the Clone Wars, you did have neutral systems like Mandalore, which was at the head of the Council for Neutral Systems. We're not going to really talk about that. Instead, we're going to be talking about these neutral corporations. The most famous of which would be the Trade Federation, the villainous organization that controlled the majority of the shipping in the galaxy from the Outer Rim territories to the core. They had been responsible for the blockade of Naboo a decade earlier, and with the breakout of the Clone Wars, they were one of the major backers of the Confederacy of Independent Systems and their droid army. Lot Dodd would represent the Neimoidian-run trade cartel in the Senate, and he unfortunately would spend much of his time declaring that Viceroy Newt Gunray, the leader of the organization, had gone rogue and did not represent the views or the actions of the Trade Federation. Meanwhile, Trade Federation Lucre Hulk battleships were spilling out droids onto Outer Rim worlds all across the galaxy. Another laughably neutral faction would be the Techno Union, led by Foreman Wat Tambor. This commerce guild was responsible for producing most of the droids being used by the separatist military. With assets stretching from Coruscant to Ryloth, this was a massive organization. And so during the Clone Wars, it would still maintain representation in the Galactic Senate through the Ishiti lawmaker Guum Sam. The Intergalactic banking clan probably had the best reason for being neutral. They were the galaxy's largest financial group, and after the Republic credits was removed from the Rhodium Standard, the IGBC would act like a reserve to assure the stability of the currency. The mandate given to them by the galaxy's business community meant that they had to stay apolitical, even in a conflict like the Clone Wars. This actually means the IGBC would help give out loans to the Separatist Alliance to build their military. The IGBC's infamous IG series droids could also be seen in the employment of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Representing the IGBC in the Senate was the Muun-raised human Russ Clovis. The ultimate goal of the Republic during the Clone Wars was not the annihilation of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. What they actually wanted was reunification. The reality was the establishment of the Outer Rim Free Trade Zone really stripped a lot of power the Republic had over the region, although they technically didn't have much resources positioned in that area in the first place. Companies like the Trade Federation, Corporate Alliance, and Commerce Guild invested massive amounts of money into the region, creating new infrastructure, factories, resource extraction sites, and corporate settlements, all of which needed to be protected by their own corporate security force. What originally was seen as a great way to encourage capital investment into a really poor region of the galaxy eventually led to the corporations essentially buying out the entire Outer Rim. And so there was a dependence on these corporate political entities from the central government, which led to a certain willingness to look the other way. The Trade Federation being neutral is bad, but it'd be even worse if they only supported the Confederacy. The Trade Federation was also a key supplier and transporter of cheap goods produced in the Outer Rim that was sold into the core region. Consumerism, which is of course driven by those cheap prices, was an essential part of the Republic's market economy, and you couldn't really disrupt that. Meanwhile, companies like the Techno Union or the Commerce Guild took things a step further. Not only were they main suppliers of the Separatist droid army, they were also main suppliers for the Grand Army of the Republic. Quad Drive Yards was a subsidiary of the Techno Union, and it was responsible for producing the Venator-class Star Destroyer and most of the Clone Troopers' vehicles, ranging from the AT-TE Walker to the LAAT gunship. Blastech Industries, another Techno Union company, produced the majority of the small arms used by the clones, including the DC series of blasters, which basically everyone used. So as you can see, the Republic was completely powerless to basically push these type of corporations away from them, or at least penalize them for supplying the opposite side with weapons. Lastly, we have the Intergalactic banking clan, which held a massive amount of Republic debt, including several massive loans that were being used to maintain the Grand Army of the Republic. The IGBC was incredibly important to the financial system. First, it printed the money, it established credits, it established the interest rates, and it basically helped the economy run smoothly. The IGBC, if threatened by the Republic, could retaliate against them in so many different ways. They could undermine confidence in the Republic credit. They could cut off any future loans, which means the military would not be able to function. So how does the Republic Senate allow someone like Lot Dodd, who represented the Trade Federation, to appear on the Senate floor when clearly his droid armies are marching all over the galaxy and destroying things? Well, it's not all that different from how companies here on Earth treat the situation. They usually find a fall guy and pin all of the company's terrible actions on him. They'll release some type of statement stating that this was a bad actor who does not represent the moral character of the rest of the company. They'll fire that individual, most likely pay him a really good severance package, and then the situation will be solved, kind of. Well, in the Trade Federation, that individual that would take the fall for everyone else was Newt Gunray.
It has come to our attention that the ugly head of the separatist has once again raised itself in the ranks of our very own Trade Federation. Newt Gunray's influence extends farther than we ever imagined.
Lotdot's speech here was designed to placate the Senate and continue this illusion that the Trade Federation remained neutral. This Senate session occurred shortly after it was revealed that the Trade Federation Administrator Sib Kane had kidnapped the children of the Pantoran Supreme Chairman Notaluski Papanoida in an attempt to coerce the Moon into joining the separatist cause. That does not sound neutral at all. That sounds like a hostile action taken by the other side. I mean, the Trade Federation even blockaded the planet with military force, one of their trademark moves they learned back in the Naboo days. But once again, because the Republic's hands are tied, they were more than willing to accept Lotdot's BS. Watson Bor was even a more ridiculous case. He and his underlings clearly were selling technology and weapons to the Confederacy, and in the later stages of the war it was discovered that Watson Bor had tortured and experimented with a captured clone to create a predictive algorithm for GAR troop tactics. This, of course, was sold to the Confederacy of Independent Systems. To make matters worse, Watson Bor was actually captured during the Battle of Ryloth early on in the war, where he served as the commander of the droid forces on the planet. During the battle, Tambor encouraged looting and was responsible for committing several war crimes, including the bombing of several Twi'lek villages. Then we have the case of Rush Clovis, which turned out to be a little bit different. He was given emergency control of the banks in the latter years of the war. Unbeknownst to the rest of the galaxy, Rush Clovis was actually compromised by Count Dooku, who most likely did this on Palpatine's orders. Rush Clovis was forced by Count Dooku to raise the borrowing interest rate for the Republic while maintaining the same level as before for the Separatists, which of course led to accusations of favoritism. Interestingly enough, though, instead of looking the other way, Palpatine decided to nationalize the banks in this situation because I guess they ultimately were a part of his grand strategy, which was to build a large military, which of course means he needs a lot of credits. So as you can see, sometimes in politics, it's not about emotions or ideology. It's more about being rational and realistic. And I think the Republic approached these neutral corporations with a real realpolitik mindset, which of course leads to some really kind of sketchy behavior, but ultimately it probably does preserve a good portion of the Galactic Republic's economic output. Well guys, let me know in the comment section below what you think about this whole situation. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy.